I feel like it's so rare that I'm actually one of the people who is hyping up a newer release, but that's where I found myself with Will of the Many. And it's one that has just only increased and grown and become really, really popular. And rereading it, I had some new thoughts. And so kind of wanted to talk a little bit about why I think this works so well, but also why I enjoyed it a little bit less on reread. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to be talking about The Will of the Many by James Islington. And this is one I've talked a bit about before, and I've seen kind of the rounds go around with this book. Originally, I read an e-arc of this before it was out, and I was interested to read it because I liked James Islington's previous series, like Cania's, which is behind me. It was definitely a debut, and it was rough at points, and it had some major flaws, but it also just had some really cool ideas and world building, and I found it really enjoyable. But then his new series come out, and initially I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna read whatever he writes next. But I hear the description and like the Roman themed and the school setting, and just with what I was hearing, I'm like, ooh, this does not sound like it's gonna be for me. So I went in kind of hesitantly, not knowing if I was gonna end up liking it, just because it sounded like it might not be my thing. And I ended up loving it, and I gave it 5 stars, and I went on about it, and then for a while I mostly only saw positive things. I saw people loving it, so it was one of the rare times where because usually, like, if the books that are super super hyped, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I want to read those because I feel like I'll be disappointed. But I had read this before it was out, and before it really really blew up, and so I was kind of a part of that. And then slowly over time, there were the few people who they go to try it, and it's the opposite. They're expecting something amazing, and they go in and they're maybe a little bit disappointed. And whereas I had really low expectations, and I think that was a part of it because, and I'm not at all bashing this, I still really enjoyed this. It did go from like a 5 to a 4 for me upon reread, which I'll talk about why. I still think this is really good, but rereading it and also keeping in mind my reservations about it the first time has, I think, really made me take a deeper look at, hey, why does this work? Why is this popular? But why is it also still maybe a little bit not for me in some ways, despite the fact that I liked it. And the big thing, because we'll just jump right out of the gate. And so if it's gonna make you mad that I'm making this comparison, you can stop watching instead of going the whole thing. But this book does feel very much like it is written to be marketable. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but this is seeming like it really is trying to hit a lot of those points. Ultimately, this I think falls into the Sanderson camp, and a lot of authors have tried to do this. Most of them don't do a very good job, but it's doing what Sanderson does, where this is very much a YA type of story, but it's packaged and marketed as an adult epic fantasy. Again, I'm not saying any of those things are necessarily a negative thing, but those are all, I would say, very apt descriptions of what we have here, and that's what Sanderson's been doing for many years. He writes the stuff that kind of is borderline between YA and adult, but it's marketed as adult, and it's very easy reading, it's very engaging, and people like it, and Sanderson's become really popular. And this feels like this was James Islington trying to kind of capture that, do things that are popular. The thing is, I think he does a really good job. The book is really well written, and so it's a cut above a lot of the other people who are doing that, and it still has the things that make me enjoy this author and his works, despite the fact that we're doing that. To me, you can't really say this is anything else. And it's, if you describe this book, this is a like dystopian sort of post-apocalyptic thing. We have our character Viz, who is an orphan, and he ends up getting adopted by somebody important from the hierarchy, and he has to go to this school where he has to try to excel and win. We're introduced to the idea that there are these rebels, and he's potentially going to get, they want to get him all mixed up with them too. And even the name of it, The Will of the Many, and the sequel, The Strength of the Few, is just the very rigid like class structure done in a very kind of simple YA type of fashion. And this is very much It's got that. It's got the different levels. The Roman coding is a big thing that is also like it's been popular in YA, but also like Red Rising, a series that I very famously did not care for. Uh, Big there. So it's all of these elements, and when you describe the story like that, which is very accurate, it sounds like something I'm not going to like. Which is again why I wasn't sure that I was going to like it, but we're doing a lot of that, and I think the thing that Islington does well though is there are twists to this. It's not just those elements. There's something a little bit different. Now, I think the biggest thing is the character of Viz is a little bit different than your typical sort of YA protagonist because he's not the like person who's just like, oh, I came from nothing and I have to work my way up. Now, granted, I will say there is also the YA side where they find out too that they were secretly part of the royalty all along, or this or that or the other thing. So there's the two different ways. It's the true, like, rags to riches, like I'm just trying so hard that I'm going to succeed, or the I find out I'm the special kind of person all along. And we're not doing either one of those things here. Viz, we're told right at the beginning, part of his backstory is he came from a like royal family. He was a prince. He had all kinds of tutoring and lessons and everything. But then when the hierarchy took over, the country that he was from was destroyed and, his family wiped out. And all of this. So he is an orphan, but he's fully aware of who he is and he has these advantages. And that's what allows him to be able to succeed. And it's referenced too. Like there are people who are like, there's no way that as an orphan, you just somehow had this kind of schooling, like things like that come up. So instead of going with the base trope there, it's done a little bit differently in a way I think that does make more sense. And is, I think, again, because we're packaging this for adults. So it's like, hey, adults would question this too, and so that's part of the book. We have that there. It's still though, I mean, it has some of the coming of age elements, I would say for sure, even though that's not the focus. And definitely it has the school setting, it has our main character, like, the outcast character, the love interest, the people that are in charge of the school that we don't know if we can trust, the rebels. It has all of these elements that are really basic tropes. But again, there are things that are a little bit different with them as well. It's not just the base kind of normal thing. And this is where we're going to get into a little bit sort of spoiler as far as ideas anyway, because I'm going to talk a little bit about it. So be warned at this point too if you want. I'll timestamp where you can skip past because I'm mostly talking big ideas, but I think it important to the points that I'm making. But we have with the rebel group, which does feel like the introduction of that feels a little bit like a plot hole in retrospect, because it is explained how the Anguis, like they very much so explain how they know how to find the transvect and attack it and stop Diz and his adoptive father. But the idea of doing that and like the plan was to somehow kidnap him and train him and ransom him, I still feel like makes absolutely no sense, because at the time I didn't question it because I'm like, oh, maybe this is going to make more sense later when I first read it. But then on reread, I'm like, no, that really doesn't make any sense, because why is he so important that they'd go through all that effort? Because it's shown that while they think he might work out, it's not like he's the only possibility here. So that whole bit I felt like didn't really make that much sense. And there are some slip ups like that, I think, that also affected my rating. But more so, it's what you expect is he ends up joining them and fighting for them because that's the other side. And instead it goes in sort of a third direction, and he's, even though he does come from a side, he hates the hierarchy and the ruling classes, he also thinks that the way that this rebel group, the way that they're doing things and handling things, is also equally wrong, and that's not the way to approach. And so I kind of like that we have that middle ground and we don't go the super obvious route, and to like some really large events rely on the fact that he is not willing to commit to either side. He's kind of going along with what he has to do, but he's partially just thinking about himself and not thinking about everybody else, which I think is also a realistic thing to have happened. And it's not even quite reluctant hero. It's just he's sort of being forced along and pulled in different directions, and he's just trying to get by and do his own kind of thing. And so there are some pieces there where, again, it uses really familiar tropes, especially in YA fantasy, but it goes different routes with them. And so I think it does a good job of doing the tropes really well, but also having some different spins on it, so it's not just the same old thing that you've seen. Now, the other thing that for a first time read through, I think helps, there are some super interesting twists with what happened here, and some things that are like unexpected or just you wouldn't see coming. You know, some of them maybe like there might be hints. But other things are just like, is Islington doing his cool world building stuff out of left field that really works really well? And I think those are the things that keep it really interesting, and it's paced well. We have inciting incidents, we have big moments that happen kind of throughout to make sure that we're still having things going and we're not spending too much time with like the school with this or that. There are some big moments early on and kind of all throughout. So I think there are enough of those big hooks to keep you going. But once you know what's coming and you're not like getting to that and having that be like, oh, what's going on here, you lose a little bit of that draw. So I do think that's where this for me suffers a little bit with rereadability, because I still enjoyed the book. I still think it was good, but it's not something that rereading it for a second time I caught more or saw more. It was more like I already know what's coming and now I'm noticing things that I wish I wouldn't be noticing. And so it suffers a little bit on rereadability there for me. But I think again, though, he uses a lot of tropes and some of the twists around, like, we have these ruins, we have the maze, which is the sort of competition, very very YA setup. Although the reasoning for it, I think, is done again really well, and it plays into the twists in the world building. So it's another one of those things where I think this is really smart, because James Islington he had a lot of goodwill from his previous series, even though it was flawed. And it's one of those ones too. I think people really enjoyed it. More people checked it out and started objectively being like, eh. And so there were those mixes, but it's one that I really enjoyed. And I don't know if I'm going to reread it, because I feel like I'd have some similar issues rereading it. I remember it very fondly. But I think he took what he learned there. And the big thing is his writing game is leaps and bounds better too in The Will of the Many. This is really obviously he's much more experienced. He worked through a lot with his first trilogy, and he's become a much better author, which I think is a big thing too. And it's a big thing that also made me like, wow, I was surprised at the quality leap. That's something, authors, when you're a newer author, sometimes you just have to work through and get better and improve. And I feel like he did that. And so it's taking all of these things to be marketable, but doing it just a little bit better than a lot of the other people do. I've talked about many times where when I read a book and it feels like it's trying to do this type of Sanderson thing, usually doesn't work for me, because Sanderson was kind of grandfathered into my brain, and even Sanderson got too Sanderson for me, and I don't really read Sanderson anymore. But it's just the kind of things that he does. I felt like nobody else trying to replicate it really worked, and I don't think this is necessarily James Islington specifically trying to just do the Sanderson thing, but I feel like that's what's popular, and he already was, I feel, pretty inspired by like Jordan Sanderson and those, and that was visible in Lycanius. This is him taking some of those elements, doing the stuff that he wants to do, but doing it in something that's extremely marketable, and I think it works. And again, there's nothing wrong with writing something to be marketable and to be popular. It's something that, I mean, it's a very smart business decision, but also I feel like it's, at least for me, some of the elements that were picked are, again, things that I just enjoy a little bit less, but also is something too where if you're really, taking your time, you're doing other stuff, you're adding more of the cool stuff, you're doing more original elements, that's something that I'm going to like more, and it's going to work better for me. But I'm also the niche booktube guy who likes a lot of books that nobody talks about. So again, most authors aren't catering to me, and that's okay, and it's probably a smarter decision for them. You want to cater to the masses and get that lowest common denominator. What can I write that the most people are all going to have in common and enjoy? That's sort of the idea, if you want to be a big time author. And I think, again, I think that's done really well here. But also, I feel like you lose something a little bit if you're really trying to go for that mass appeal, because you have to write in a way that's going to work for the masses, instead of writing for something maybe that's different. Maybe it won't work for everybody. Maybe it'll be, just some people might love, some people might hate. So playing it a little bit safe, and I do feel like in some ways, despite there being some unique elements and some things here, it does feel like it plays it a little bit safe. So all in all, this dropped a star for me. It went from 5 to 4, and those are some of the things I kind of wanted to talk about that I was just thinking about as I was rereading. It's not to say again that I didn't enjoy it. I still am going to be reading Strength of the Few here very soon. I actually am filming this the day before this came out. It came early, so I still will be reading Strength of the Few. However, I'll be interested to see what happens here because now I feel like my expectations have once again been managed. I was very excited for Strength of the Few. I'm a lot less excited now, and I feel like it's going to need to really up the ante to pull me back in. But it's also probably better for the book too that I have lowered expectations now because that'll make me more likely to like it. So maybe in a couple of years when the third book comes out, you'll find me making the same video and saying like, I loved it at first, but then after a reread, maybe not. We'll have to see. I am still interested to find out, but I just thought this was something that I wanted to talk about, and I found the topic interesting. So I'd love to get your thoughts on any of the stuff that I said, whether you completely agree, disagree, whatever. I'd love to have that conversation. So let me know in the comments. That's it for this one, though. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the links in the description, as always, for the Patreon if you want to support what I do, as well as the Wizard in the Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether these books, other books, really anything at all. It's a lot of fun, and we'd love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.